Okay, I call this Land Use Committee meeting to order, and it's Tuesday, November 17th. First item of business is approval of minutes from the October 19th meeting. Can I have a motion, please?
Move.
Second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Same sign if you disapprove. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, we have two items of discussion on our agenda today, and the first is social media and bed and breakfast establishments. And Jeff Schmidt is going to present to us here today. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you. Thank you. Jeff Schmidt representing planning staff this evening, and then Shauna Goldapper representing zoning is here this evening. I just want to say how distinguished you all look this evening. Okay, so for all those people at home, we continue to represent cancer awareness, and thank you, gentlemen, for doing that. These are really quick, both of these items. It's just, again, bringing some information forward. There's no proposals, there's no suggestions. It's just, these are some informational items. So right now we have a couple different types of housing in Sioux Falls, single family, multifamily. There's a lot of different types of housing. However, it's always an ever-changing market. Along with that, we have duplexes, twin homes, townhomes, and there's this new thing out there called Airbnb, and I'm sure even today there's numerous other things that are out there. But Airbnb was founded back in 2008, and it's basically a way for online people can rent or share their housing units throughout America, okay? What Sean and I want you to know is we're currently addressing this issue in our location by handling them as their bed and breakfast establishments. Okay? It's a single-family detached dwelling that is used to provide meals, dining, and bathroom facilities with sleeping rooms and temporary accommodations for a charge to the public. That's what it is. That's what they're doing. So that's how we address that issue. This was a screenshot of Airbnb back, I can't remember when I pulled this up, it was like September. And I pulled up the dates. There's Airbnbs out there. If we get complaints, if we have issues, Shauna is able to address it. We call them up, we address their issues, their conditional use permit. They have a planning commission hearing, they have to do a bed and breakfast establishment, and they have to meet these standards. Basically, Shauna can answer your specific questions, but when we contact them, they generally say, well, that's not what we are and that's not what we want to do, and they cease and desist. So this is how it's handled today. We have a complaint, we research it, we notice it, and we could go forward with it. But it's really pretty quick and easy. I just wanted this body to know that we're addressing it, we're handling it, and it's been handled pretty well. So.
Any questions? Yes, Councilor Anderson.
Sure. Jeff, on the ones that have been approved, when we put out the notices, what type of responses do we get back from the neighborhoods?
For the bed and breakfasts in general, you know, inquiries, they don't know for sure what a bed and breakfast is, you know, how much traffic it's going to generate, what the standards are. And then once they come to the hearing, then again, it's a nice public discussion on it. We answer a majority of their questions beforehand. We understand that, you know, it's not a multifamily unit. They're not bringing in a lot of people. It's for a quick stay. They have to have parking on site. And then the neighbors are like, okay, we understand that. So their questions are answered.
Thank you.
Yep.
Councilor Jameson has his thoughtful face on there. Any questions?
Without disclosing too much information, I do know of a residence that has done this and seem to find it as a source of revenue, a positive experience for them. And they did not show up on your map, and I suppose that map changes as somebody says they want to do it tonight.
Hourly.
Hourly.
Yep.
I don't. I think I heard you say that you're going to continue as you have been. As if somebody complains and you do some research and you
Correct.
give a notice. Yeah, I like that. I think I don't know of any way that I would think that we would need to get involved further, but I think you're going to see from what I'm hearing and learning as we go is there's more and more of these kinds of things from
Correct.
Councilor Erickson was telling me it could today it could be your bedroom or something. Tomorrow it could be your kitchen, could be your shower, it could be your backyard. I don't know, but everything's for rent. It seems like, and
Yeah.
she called it revenue sharing, and or economy. You could have to ask her what she said, but it makes a lot of sense. And I see this just as the tip of the iceberg. From what I'm sensing, it's just going to keep growing in our community as we pick up these trends from San Francisco or whatever as they move through. So I can't think of a better way to handle it than the way you're doing it.
And that's again why Sean and I just wanted to get in front of you today. This is how we've handled it. It's hard to get on your calendar. It's hard to get in the, but if you hear other things, if there's other ways, we can always discuss it more. But we wanted you to know this is how we're addressing it now. It seems to work, but that doesn't mean we can't change later on. We're not proposing anything else. Yep.
Jeff, the cases that you have addressed, has the complaint generally focused on traffic or parking? Or Shauna, if you'd like to address that.
Sure. Shauna Goldhammer, your zoning enforcement manager. The complaints that we've gotten specifically to Airbnb have to do with people not knowing who their neighbors are. And there's this random family, and they know the couple that lives there, but then all of a sudden there's this random family and kids in the yard, and then all of a sudden they're gone. And that was primarily the complaint one time that I got. And so like Jeff said, we got the complaint, we did some research, we sent notice, we sent them a letter, talked to the homeowner, and told them that they needed to get a conditional use permit for a B&B if that was what they wanted to do, and they chose to take their home off the website. So the complaint, like I said, it was just the one time that we had to actually follow up, was because they're in a single family neighborhood and they didn't know who their neighbors were. They didn't know what was going on there, so.
Sure. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Yep.
It does sound like you're dealing with it appropriately, and I thank you for that.
Okay.
Councilor Jameson.
Sorry, one last thought is the idea of, we stay at a night at a hotel room, we pay a lot of taxes, and even just recently there's a lot of discussion about that $2 room tax that's being collected by them. Certainly there's no revenue generated for the city when these people use their homes, right?
Similar to a rummage sale, correct?
And I'm sure it doesn't amount to a lot, but from what I'm sensing and gathering, there's just a ton of entrepreneurship going on out there. People are realizing the assets they have and try to utilize them in some way. That part is energizing. The amount of money we would collect is probably nominal, but that energy is certainly exciting. I just had to say it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
No other questions. We'll move on to our next item on the agenda, which is multifamily housing land uses, and Jeff Schmidt is going to present on that item as well.
This one's a little longer, but same context. So we have a lot of different housing in Sioux Falls, single family, multifamily being the predominant. With our planning and zoning departments, we have our comprehensive plan. We do engineering analysis and zoning coordination. We really work hard to walk through these 3 steps. So from that standpoint, I'm going to try to explain that a little bit more to you. With our comprehensive plan, this is our comprehensive plan map. It shows the future land use. It shows, again, all these employment nodes. It shows where we expect or what we would plan to have in various locations throughout the community. At the same time, there's engineering analysis behind each and every one of those. When you look at a node and it says regional, sub-regional, there's engineering behind that. Each one of them is detailed where it says, okay, you're going to have 20 to 40 acres of 80 to 160 acres. It's because each one of these nodes has a classification for that road analysis to it. These are section line roads, they're arterial streets, and if their access is going to be at 660 feet or if it's going to be at a quarter mile, that node is going to be much larger. So we look at them and go, okay, here's the two sections where at the intersection, if the access point is going to be at 666 feet, that's how big that intersection is going to be. If it's going to be a quarter mile, it's going to have 40 acres internal to that. So then what should be inside there? Then you look down the legend, it goes, well, you should have intensive employment inside there, which is really commercial. Okay, it could be institutional, but it's, you know, it's intensive employment. And then, well, what do you have as you transition out of that? Well, you do residential employment transitions, multifamily and office. And then outside of that, you try to buffer it again to the single family. And so when you see all of these nodes, they're detailed by the background of this is how we analyze them. Then, in the comprehensive plan, again, which was adopted back in 2010, it got into more details and said, well, if you really want to know what a sub-regional is, it's 160 to 320 acres, 50% commercial, and then on the right-hand side, it detailed for everybody. It should be, the core should be commercial 3 or a commercial 4, and the support district should be multifamily or general office. So we detailed that in the comprehensive plan, trying to explain what the plan called for. Now, just giving you some background, you know, since 2008 to 2014, how much single family, how much multifamily. And, you know, I was expecting a little bit more, but you can see the uptick right now in multifamily. You know, I guess it's just a little trend, but I wanted to give you some background on how much the market's changing, and then again, where the percentage of twin homes and townhomes has been over the last 6 years. Okay. So then from that standpoint, we've tried to get this information out to the public. It's very important. Every time Mike and I go out and speak to public meetings, presentations, if I'm doing planning preview, we go over the comprehensive plan, the zoning ordinance, and give the people as much information as we can. We talk about zoning mattering. It's really about how that land is zoned. We try to make sure that the public hearings are always fair and effective. We try to make sure that the public generally knows where. And I think they do. But again, I think people generally know taxes also, but they don't. We can't expect everybody to know everything. It's too complicated. And we've always said that. Zoning is complicated, but we've tried to make it a little bit easier. I think, and again, I'm the spokesperson, I'm biased, but this is much easier now than it was before. Every time you have an item come before you, every time it comes before the Planning Commission, we use the compatibility chart. We say, look, if you're going to have, and there's 2 red highlights here, if you're going to have a commercial 2 or 3 next to multifamily, it's a 3. If you're going to have multifamily next to single family, it's a 4. That's good. 5's the best, 1's the worst, and we highlight that for people to let them know that multifamily is really supposed to go here. If you have heavy industrial next to single family, it's a 1. That's bad. It's highlighted as red. We highlight that. We never used to do that. That's new with the comprehensive plan with shape places. So, again, kind of highlighting some things. Back in 2012 at the Land Use Committee, one of the things that we said is conditional uses are required for RDs for 4 units. We said currently this is the way we do it. What we're proposing is we're going to get rid of these conditional uses because they're too confusing. People don't understand them. And really, why are you putting conditional uses out there? Then when we went in front of Planning Commission and City Council in 2013, we said with shape places, we're going to make it more user-friendly. We said the zoning ordinance has always been a complex document, but it has its rules and regulations that help protect the health and safety. We're trying to make sense of these regulations. We're trying to illustrate it. We're trying to be consistent. This is what we've always tried to stand upon. Didn't say it was ever going to be wonderful or perfect, but it was trying to be better. Same time we said, this is the biggie, consistent and predictable regulations. The public dislikes uncertainty and inconsistency about city policies and desires more predictable information. So that's what we tried to do. This all goes back to, we have those nodes. Those nodes said they were designed by infrastructure and the engineering analysis. Then they said they were going to have commercial on the corners, wrapped by multifamily, then by single family. The plan said engineering, zoning coordination. In the end, in all honesty, I say this every time I do a bus tour. I say this every time I go out to public presentation. Every intersection's the same. Okay, on the west side of town is the one on my left. The right side is 41st and Sycamore. They're all the same. Okay, close your eyes and go to any intersection in Sioux Falls. Okay, guess what? You're going to have a fast food restaurant. You're going to have a bank. You're going to have a discount store, right? And then behind that, you're going to have multifamily. Behind the multifamily, you're going to have twin homes. And people sit there and go, you know what? That's exactly what my intersection. I'm like, every intersection is the same. It might be a Burger King or McDonald's, but they're still, you're going to have a fast food restaurant. You're going to have a bank. You're going to have a clinic. Behind there, you're going to have multifamily. It's always the same. Now, I just detailed 2 of the intersections, and now here's the zoning. When you pull up the zoning, it's the same. You have commercial is red. Behind the commercial, you have brown because you have apartments wrapped around there. The one in the right's even better because they went red, brown, orange, and then to the yellow. But what typically happens is sometimes the red or the brown's not done yet, but the yellow's the first thing that gets built, and those are the people that you hear from. Those are the people, and they go, I had no idea that vacant lot was going to be, and I go, it's always the same. It's always going to, consistent, predictable. That's what the comprehensive plan calls for. We're trying. We don't have any changes here today. We're just trying to, again, bring the awareness out. We speak on this all the time. I'd like to do more. We're trying. Then once they get there, they come to get a building permit. The requirements are always set. They have to do these things. They have to meet the lighting standards, the landscaping standards, the drainage standards, the setback standards. Okay. In the old days, they negotiated those things. Sometimes they did them. Sometimes now it's consistent and predictable. They don't get away with having to do anything. Here's the standards they have to meet. In conclusion, I just hear RAs, RDs, when you talk about them, then it goes to the forms. When it says an MD, that's a multifamily form. An AD is an attached dwelling form. Okay? So I ask the citizens that are watching this at home, enjoying their evening, are the citizens involved? I hope so. I'd like them to continue to be involved. Are they shaping Sioux Falls? So what happens to that vacant lot that your neighbor owns? That's what I always think about. It's someone's property that they own. So if the residential goes here, which we all know, the residential goes right in the middle. That's 4 sections, 4 intersections. Where does the non-residential go? It goes right there. But now what do you do in between there? So we try to do consistent, predictable regulations. Let's have some discussion about it, always even outside of this format. And then once we're done, Shauna gets to work to make sure that the lighting's the same, the drainage is the same, the signage is the same, the landscaping's the same. So that's kind of where we're at.
Questions? Councilor Anderson.
Jeff, there's one of these categories and items in it, the office institutional districts, the live work.
Yes, LW.
Could you explain that a little bit?
Absolutely. I always say in the old days, but it really wasn't that long ago. So 4 years ago, we had 285 PDs, planned development districts, and they would come and they go, I don't really know what my market is. I may build apartments or I may build office, depending upon the market. And they still do that today, right? They come and they go, depending upon the market, I'm going to build office or I'm going to build apartments. I don't know if I'm going to work here or I'm going to live here. We go, okay, so it's basically a live-work district. And they're like, yep, so instead of having a district that we didn't know what it was going to be, we zone it LW, and the neighbors go, so what should I expect here? Well, you're either going to get an office district or you're going to get an apartment. It's a live-work district. They could even do the same. They could go, you know what, we're going to do compatible next door to each other. We're going to do an office building and an apartment. Or they can go up above. They can put apartments above office. It's a live-work district.
If I may?
Yes.
Do you have a good example of one that we have here in the city? That
we have a lot of them, really. So anytime you're at an intersection, again, where you see apartments, and then they transition to office districts. So if you're down at 57th and Western, okay, behind Bracco's, there's apartments and there's an office building right there. If you go along 57th Street, just past the underpass viaducts area, on the north side before you get to Sertoma Park, there's offices down below and apartments up above. Further down 57th Street, west of Louise, it goes commercial on the corner, then Van Buskirk's apartments, and then you got the same thing across from Good Samaritan. You have offices on the bottom, you have apartments on the top. Well, that's kind of even live work there. Planning Commission next month, it's coming up, December, and then coming to City Council at Madison Avenue and Highway 11, just north of Menards, but on the east side, they're going to do a rezoning, basically for a business park. So the business park, they're like, well, we don't know for sure what the market is, but it's going to be live work. And they're going to go, because we might want to do both. Where all these people are, it's downtown, where all these people are going to be working, they need to live. So we're going to do an apartment complex where all these people are working and living, they may want to be next to each other. Then it's the whole millennial aspect again, because they're like, well, we don't want to have cars. Why don't we just live in this apartment complex and walk across the street to our office building?
So then, like the USD,
Yes.
that's more of a live-work
Yes.
play, isn't it? Or,
Yep.
Okay.
There's just examples in a lot of different locations. You're right.
Thank you.
Councilor Jameson.
Thank you. You know, Jeff, I know you came to talk about multifamily housing uses, but you did talk about other zoning issues and discussion items that I spurred some thoughts. And I saw Director Cooper come in, made me even think even of other things like those vacant lots and land that's next to residential that I just kind of couldn't help but think, you know, we have Shape Places is a great guide and great, I think it's going to make a great community. It's just that we still have these transition areas where we still have some of the old fragments of old designs and layouts of the way those your engineering and metrics has worked out before. We're still working through some of those remnants of those. And then we have transition or redevelopment areas where we're changing over from what it was used for from before now into something new, and we have Shape Places interfacing and all that. I just sense that we have kind of some growth issues to get through, and you know, certainly with no argument, I don't think we can argue too much about 85th in Minnesota is one of those transitional areas where residential got ahead of what we wanted, and all of a sudden there was conflict. But we were thinking and talking about this previously about how we could give notice or give how could we inform the neighbors by that vacant land that, look, it's likely to be commercial, you could expect this to happen. And I've asked some other people who aren't involved in politics or government at all, and one of them said potentially of having a sign that states this website where they can go and see that comprehensive map that you have, and or the exact web address for them to go and figure it out. And I know there's like I mentioned, a transition area around the community where there's these potential conflicts going to occur. How hard would it be to go out and do something so that, I know when we put up those red or those orange rezoning signs, everybody sees those and becomes then engaged. And I know you asked if the public was engaged, and I'm afraid they are not.
Right.
Until they see that sign, and then they become fully engaged. How could we?
A little engaged.
Okay, maybe that's true. So how could we, can you think about it? I know you've been through this a lot, and I'm looking for help and any ideas really on how we could minimize those challenges in the future. So any thoughts?
No. I mean, we think about it all the time. We brainstorm as staff trying to find better ways. I mean, if there was a social media way that we could do it, this is one of the ways. I'm trying to get the word out. Doing bus tours, I do presentations. The challenge that we're always going to have is we're going to miss the one person that's going to show up and say, I didn't know about it. And then they're going to still come back and go, why didn't you stand at my doorstep? Or why weren't you at my closing? And I'm going to be like, I don't know how to address that. If there's other ideas, I'm open to suggestions. I would be willing to try things. I mean, we even try things downstairs at the counter where we put up boards and more information, and we put up flyers. But it's always in changing market, and so I keep coming back to, I don't have the solution. I'd like people to understand more that things really haven't changed. I mean, where my parents grew up isn't really any more different than 85th and Minnesota. The corners are where the commercial's at. It's never really changed. The corners always have the commercial development, and then there's apartments behind it, and then there's single family. And if you buy in the middle of the neighborhood, you're going to be protected. If you're on a busy street, you're going to be close to having an impact. And that doesn't change. But that's where we usually get the most questions and concerns. They come and they go, I'm on this busy street and I didn't know. And we're like, I don't know how to explain that to everybody, that busy streets are going to change and there's going to be a lot of impact. And even when they buy their lots, and I think everybody, I say this all the time, so I apologize, but when you buy your lot, they're discounted along the busy streets. I mean, that they got it at a discount because those are the hardest ones to sell because they're going to be impacted. But then they go, but I didn't know I got it for a discount. And you're like, you absolutely got your lot for a discount when you bought it on the busy street.
Well,
So that's one way they should know is, well, if I would have bought it, the most expensive lot in the internal versus the external. I mean, that should be the red flag right there. And they go, well, why did I get this lot as a discount? Because you're going to be impacted, highly impacted.
well, you're right, and you're pretty savvy and pretty intuitive on a lot of these things. But holy smokes, when we covered 41st in Minnesota recently with some changes, you can feel the neighbors just cringing when they see commercial growing out from what it originally was. But well, I guess what I'm hearing, and I appreciate it, and I'm going to reach out to Mike and you and others to try to find those creative ways.
Yep.
Try something we haven't done yet. If you're willing to flex like that, I'll be willing to press you and just try to do something more.
And again, if there's other people at home, if there's other people that have ideas, we're interested in trying other ideas. We don't have the market on the best ideas. There's a lot of them out there. So,
Thank you.
Okay, Jeff, thank you very much. I do think with Shape Places that we're heading in the right direction, as you mentioned a number of times, consistent and predictable regulations, and that's protections for whether you're a builder that's purchased property or if you're a single family dweller that's purchased property. You can look at the area and you can predict what's going to go there based on our zoning throughout the entire city and based on that area. And I do agree that the challenge is in the areas where maybe we have ag land yet and the city is growing out. But and I do appreciate your efforts and the efforts of your colleagues too in trying to get this information out. And this is a good place to do it. And I'm sure you've worked with the Home Builders Association, with Realtors Associations and so on. So the fact that we're doing something is great. It'd be different if we were doing nothing and then people were getting caught unaware. But we are making our best effort, and you're open to suggestions, and you're still bouncing ideas off of one another, and I can encourage you to continue to do so. And thank you very much for your presence here this afternoon.
thank you. Thank you.
Okay, with that, we're into open discussion on our agenda. Any items? Councilor Jameson.
The only thing that I would have as an item would be to maybe talk a little bit about an ongoing schedule for our Boulevard topic, which I think is going to be intense, but potentially having a date in the future that we could set for and allowing a meeting like this for individuals to come and give public input now. We certainly have the availability of any 7 o'clock meeting for individuals to come and express their feelings then. But the other opportunity is to have another time that we could allow at a different hour than which our meetings are at, so that maybe more public could have a chance. But so I just want to lay that out in potential timeline, discuss and figure out what that next step could be, because part of the effort would be to make sure everybody has a chance to know that we're going to allow public input so they have a chance to participate. and as much notice as we can give and do as much awareness building as possible. That's the effort. So as Jeff had mentioned, there's always somebody who says they never heard about it, and anything we can do to help avoid that. That's all. So I'm looking for a timeline that would work for the committee, and really, that's all.
Councilor Anderson?
I agree with Councilman Jameson. I think that we can take a look at the schedule now that we've canceled some meetings for the holidays and everything. And I think that we could probably come up with a good date to where we could have the meeting right here and allow the public to have their say on boulevards.
Are you talking like a meeting that's not a regular Tuesday meeting?
Yes, I'm open to any evening to being able to, we can do it early evening, whatever, that allows people that are working to come in and have a discussion on boulevards.
That's ambitious. It's good. Thank you. One of the goals on our timeline is really meant to be, and it was discussed in the past, is to try to have all this laid out and in ordinance and put in place prior to any growing season or planting season, so individuals have a chance to know what the rules and regulations are and give them the season to work into it, and just some flexibility so it's not drawn out any longer so that it turns into a spring issue and everybody's already planted and we have to wait another year kind of thing. That's all. So, if it means a special meeting, I'll certainly do whatever we can. I know it'd sure be nice if we could figure it out on a Tuesday when we have maybe it just has to be January, frankly.
We have discussed putting it on our next land use meeting, which would be the 15th of December. And this would give us an opportunity to discuss things further amongst ourselves, as well as which directors Cotter and Cooper, and maybe even get some additional input at the land use on the 15th as to what would be a convenient schedule to provide public input on the issue, because it's going to be over the holiday season here, and that is going to be the challenge. But I do agree that we want to get this process started so that we do have something worked out in place by next spring and the next growing season.
Do we have an agenda, any other agenda items on the 15th at this point in time?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I think that's a great idea. I think we at least get it on the 15th and start that discussion. And if we feel we need to, we can continue that into January.
Correct. And that does give us some time to float some other ideas out there as well, too.
If I could,
Councilor Jameson.
am I understanding you that on the 15th of December we would discuss exactly what about the Boulevard ordinance change? What would we be discussing?
Well, I don't think we start discussing changes. I think we listen to the public
Okay,
first.
that's what I meant. We're going to have public input then on the December 15th meeting?
We can, and in the terms of maybe even more suggestions from the public based on the best process to
Go forward.
go forward in terms of getting additional input.
All those in favor say aye.
Any other items of discussion? Hearing none, this meeting's adjourned.